in this lesson, we'll talk about tags and how we can use those to define what polygons have what material applied to them. So you'll notice that we have all of these little triangle tags, and these are our selection tags, and those allow us to select different polygons. And so for things like the things that are created with splines and generators, some of those automatically come with tags. And so if you double click on a tag, it'll actually select whatever polygons are included in that tag. So in this case, on the inner thruster, you can see it's selecting these different portions of the thruster. And we can use these tags to enable us to apply different materials to different parts of our object. So let's say that we have this pod here, and we want to create sort of a rubber seal. So let's create the material. So we'll go to New Material, and let's just call this Rubber Seal. Okay, we'll change some of the attributes. So for the color, we'll go ahead and set that down fairly dark. So something like that. And then in the specularity, maybe we want to, depending on what kind of rubber, we want to kind of narrow it down a little bit and take that spec down just a little. Maybe something like that, okay? So let's say that's our rubber. And then let's also create one for a grip. So create a new material. We'll call this grip material, and this can be sort of either kind of a leather look, or I want to just give it kind of a brown, kind of a desaturated look. And then on the specularity, we can go ahead and increase it maybe a little bit, tighten it up a little, maybe something like that. Okay, so let's look at first this pod. So right now it has the base material that we already added. So, and it's actually added to the hypernerb. Let's go ahead and add it to the polygon, or to the polygon object down here. Okay, so now what we need to do is define where we want this rubber, let's say, to go. So there's a couple of ways that we can do this. One of the ways that we can do it is to select the polygons themselves. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can see the polygons we want to select here. Let's go to our polygon mode, and we want to go select our polygon and go to a loop selection. And let's go ahead and select that loop, and then I just want to grow it a couple of times. Okay, so you can see the hotkeys for that, but I just want to grow the selection and then grow it one more time. Now we could create a tag from this. So go to Create, Tag, and actually, sorry, instead of Create Tag, we go down to Set Selection, and that will allow us to name it. So we can call this Seal. And now you can see that that's created a new tag here called Seal. If we go ahead and deselect all of our polygons, but then we double click on Seal, it's going to actually allow us to choose that tag. Okay, so now what we need to do is to go ahead and assign another material to our pod. So this time we'll assign the rubber. Okay, so now we have two materials, and you can see as I move these around, this one is on the right and it's being applied to everything. Now this one is on the right and it's being applied to everything. So what we want to do is tell this material that we only want you to be applied to the tag that we've defined. And so to do that, you can see that as we have our material selected, there's a place down here for selection. All we have to do is type in the name of the tag. Okay. We can also drag it down here. And now you can see that only those polygons are being applied this seal material. Okay, so let's try it again on the yoke. Okay, so our yoke is right here. Let's go ahead and turn off our hypernerbs. Okay, we already have a couple of tags here. We've got this one and then this one. So by just selecting those, we can create those tags. But let's say that we want to add our grip to this one. So we can go ahead and add the grip material. And if you take a look, you can see the names of this. So this one is handle. So I can go ahead and get the material. And then the handle I can drop down in there. Okay, and then let's say we want to create sort of a metal, so we can create a new material, metal plane or temp, and we can go ahead and change that to kind of a darker gray. On the specularity, we can change that to metal. Okay, if we want to increase the spec, we can do that. Make it a little bit brighter, and then we can drag our metal on here, and again we can select the correct tag, and now we have 3 different materials being applied to a single object just with tags. Now there's another way to do this besides having to go in and actually create the tag. So let's say up here I want this light to be on, so we're going to create a new material and we're going to use the luminance for our material. So go ahead and turn on luminance, and let's say we want to give this sort of an orange glow. We'll go ahead and add orange to our luminance. If you want it to take away, if you want to take away the color, you can go ahead and turn that off. Okay, we'll just call this orange light. All right, and so find our object here. So here's our object with the white material on it. To add this orange, rather than selecting the polygons and creating a tag out of it, let's go ahead and just select the polygons that we want to apply this light material on. So we've got the polygons, the opposite polygons selected. So I'm just going to go to select and invert, or UI. Now we've got the correct polygon selected. Now without creating the tag, and let me actually get rid of that. Without creating the tag, all we have to do now is drag the material onto the selected polygons. Okay, and let me actually turn that off for a second. And so now you can see that it's added the material, and it's also added a new tag. So our tag's name is polygon selection 1, which may or may not be what you want, but you can see that polygon selection 1 is being used for this material. So rather than creating a tag and then manually assigning it, you can just select the polygons and drag the material over to those polygons. It'll automatically create the tag for you. If you want to edit this for any reason, so you want it to make more sense, let's say we call it light, you can see it doesn't work anymore, and that's because in our material it's accessing this polygon selection 1. If we want to fix it, we just go ahead and add that tag back in. Okay, now some of these automatically come with different tags, as I said before. You can see here we've got the face of this, so if we wanted to add rubber to this piece, we can find this tag, which is C1, cap 1, go to the rubber, C1, and then you can see that it's been added there. Okay, so some of these pieces will automatically have tags, and some you'll have to define. You can define those either manually by going to select, set selection, or you can select the polygons and then apply your material, and that'll automatically create a new tag for you. Keep in mind that material must be, you must define the selection in the material if you want it only to be applied to those particular polygons. Okay, so that's kind of a quick look at using tags with materials to apply multiple materials to single objects. In the next lesson, let's take a look at UVs. So UVs are kind of how polygons are broken apart and laid out so that 2D textures can be applied to them appropriately. So we'll talk a little bit about that in the next lesson.